What if one of the most dangerous things about a heat wave isn't the heat itself, but the bad advice we all hear every single summer? When temperatures spike, our first instinct is to find relief, and fast. The internet explodes with survival tips: chug ice water, take salt tablets, open the windows for a breeze, jump into a freezing shower. We see this advice shared by friends and family who mean well. But what if some of those ideas aren't just useless, they're actively dangerous? What if they could turn a bad situation into a deadly one? That's not an exaggeration. Extreme heat is consistently one of the deadliest weather-related events in the US, and as our climate warms, heat waves are getting more frequent, more intense, and lasting longer. The number of people exposed to them has skyrocketed. This puts everyone at risk, but the stakes are especially high for older adults, young children, outdoor workers, and people with chronic health conditions, or those living without reliable AC. So today, we're separating the life-saving facts from the lethal myths. We're getting into the counterintuitive science of how your body actually handles heat, and why a small mistake can escalate into a medical emergency with terrifying speed. Because the first myth we're tackling sounds so reasonable, which is exactly what makes it so widespread and so dangerous. The acclimatization and electrolyte fallacies myth. Number 1. You'll be fine if you just get used to it. This one just feels right, doesn't it? We all know someone who works outside all summer and seems totally immune to the heat. And yes, the human body is an incredible machine. It can adapt to heat through a process called acclimatization. Over about 7 to 14 days of consistent exposure, your body gets better at cooling itself. You start sweating earlier, your heart rate doesn't spike as much, and it helps your body keep its core temperature from skyrocketing under stress. But here's the fatal flaw in that logic. That process takes time. A sudden, record-shattering heat wave doesn't give your body 1 to 2 weeks to prepare. If the temperature jumps 20 degrees overnight, your body is in shock. Those physiological adaptations haven't happened yet. A person who was perfectly fine working in their garden last week can find themselves in serious trouble this week when a heat dome parks itself over their city. Your previous tolerance means very little when the conditions change that drastically. This is the core concept. Heat risk isn't just about the number on the thermometer. It's about the speed of the change and the combination of heat and humidity. This brings us directly to our second myth, an old-school tip that can do more harm than good. Myth number 2. Take salt tablets to replace what you sweat out. The logic seems sound. You sweat, you lose salt, so you should replace the salt, right? Well, for most people the answer is a hard no. In fact, unless you're a specific type of endurance athlete or a doctor has told you to, taking salt tablets is probably a bad idea. Here's why. When you sweat, you lose both water and electrolytes like sodium. For the average person, the most immediate danger is water loss, dehydration. Dumping a concentrated dose of salt into your system can actually make dehydration worse by pulling water from your cells to dilute the excess sodium in your blood. But it's also true that if you sweat a ton and only drink plain water, you can dilute your body's sodium too much, a dangerous condition called hyponatremia. So what's the answer? Instead of salt pills, experts say most people should focus on hydrating with fluids that contain electrolytes and eating regular meals. For those doing intense, prolonged work in the heat, a balanced sports drink or adding sodium-rich foods to your diet is the smart way to go. It's about balance, not just dumping salt into your system. The misleading signs and cooling confusion myth. Number 3. If someone is having a heat stroke, they'll stop sweating. This is one of the most persistent and deadly myths out there. While it's a classic sign taught for decades, it's dangerously unreliable. Here's the crucial distinction. Classic heat stroke, often seen in the elderly or chronically ill, can indeed present with hot, dry skin. But exertional heat stroke, the kind that hits athletes or outdoor workers, often happens while the person is still sweating profusely. Relying on a lack of sweat as the definitive sign could cause you to lose precious, life-saving minutes. The most critical warning signs are neurological. Heat stroke is a life-threatening emergency where the body's core temperature rises so high that it causes cellular damage and starts shutting down organs, especially the brain. This leads to confusion, slurred speech, dizziness, agitation, seizures, or loss of consciousness. If you see someone acting strangely in the heat, you must assume it's heat stroke and get emergency medical help immediately. Waiting for them to stop sweating could be a fatal delay. Myth number 4. Drinking ice-cold water is bad for you when you're overheated. You've probably seen the viral post. A story about someone who chugged ice water on a hot day and their body went into shock. For the vast majority of people, the fear of cold water is largely a myth. Emergency physicians and physiologists have pushed back hard on this. The biggest danger in a heat wave is dehydration. If drinking cold water helps you drink more water, that is a huge win. Your body's internal thermostat is robust. It can handle a cold drink. Now, are there extremely rare cases where chugging ice water has triggered a fainting response, often in people with pre-existing conditions? Yes, but for most of us, the priority is getting fluids in, and the temperature is a secondary concern. But this is where it gets tricky, because while a cold drink is fine, a sudden cold plunge is a different story, depending on the situation. Myth number 5. An ice-cold shower is the fastest way to cool down. This is one of the most misunderstood pieces of advice. It feels logical. You're hot, so apply ice cold. But here's the nuance. If you're just feeling overheated from being outside, blasting your skin with freezing water causes your surface blood vessels to clamp shut. That can feel refreshing for a second, but it can slow down the process of heat leaving your body's core. In this case, a cool or lukewarm shower is more effective and less of a shock to your system. However, and this is critically important, the rules change for a true medical emergency. For exertional heat stroke, the kind we talked about with athletes, military and sports medicine guidelines are clear. Cold water immersion is the gold standard. Under supervision, immersing a person in cold water is the fastest way to lower their core body temperature and save their life. So, for everyday cooling, think cool and gradual. For a life or death emergency, doctors use fast and cold. If this breakdown of science versus myth is helping you rethink summer safety, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We're all about digging into the science behind everyday life to find what actually works and what could be putting you at risk. The human impact and AMP, the bigger picture myth. Number 6. Open the windows to let the breeze in. Let's make this real. Think about a construction worker on a 95-degree day. An elderly person living alone in a top-floor apartment. These aren't abstract examples. They are the people most vulnerable to the fatal consequences of these myths. And one of the most common mistakes is trying to cool a home in a way that actually makes it hotter. The instinct is to open a window to get some fresh air. But if the air outside is hotter than the air inside, you're not letting heat out, you're inviting it in. It's like opening your oven door to cool down your kitchen. Experts recommend keeping windows and curtains closed during the hottest part of the day, especially on sun-facing sides, to trap the cooler air inside. Then, at night, if the outside temperature finally drops below the indoor temperature, that's when you open everything up to ventilate. Getting this wrong can turn your home into a convection oven, especially in cities where the urban heat island effect keeps nighttime temperatures dangerously high. Myth number 7. Heat waves are just a part of summer. It's not a big deal. This is the most dangerous myth of all, because it breeds complacency. Shrugging off heat waves as just summer ignores a clear and alarming trend. Scientific consensus is overwhelming. Due to human-caused climate change, extreme heat events are becoming more frequent, lasting longer, and getting hotter. According to analyses by U.S. federal agencies, the average heatwave season in many American cities has grown by over 40 days since the 1960s. Globally, studies have found that from 1979 to 2020, heat waves became more frequent and their duration increased, though the exact amount varies by region. This isn't just a summer inconvenience, it's a massive public health crisis in the making. The issue isn't that summer is hot. The issue is that the extremes are becoming more extreme, and our old ways of coping just aren't enough anymore. What you can actually do. So, after all that myth-busting, what's the right way to handle extreme heat? It comes down to a few simple science-backed principles. First, hydrate proactively. Don't wait until you're thirsty. Thirst means you're already on the way to dehydration. Sip water and electrolyte-containing fluids throughout the day. Second, find or make a cool place. If you have air conditioning, use it. If not, go somewhere that does, like a library, mall, or an official cooling center. These places are literal lifesavers. At home, follow the window rule. Closed during the day, open at night only when it's cooler outside. Third, dress for the heat. Loose, lightweight, light-colored clothing is your friend. Dark colors absorb heat, and tight clothes trap it. Fourth, know the real danger signs. Forget the sweating myth. The absolute red flags are neurological: confusion, dizziness, slurred speech, or passing out. If you see those signs in someone during extreme heat, treat it as a medical emergency. Call 911 immediately and begin cooling them down with cool water and wet cloths while you wait for help. And most importantly, be skeptical of folk wisdom. In the face of unprecedented heat, your body doesn't care if advice is traditional or just common sense. It only cares if it works. Check your sources, trust the science, and protect yourself and the people you care about. Heat waves seem simple, but they're wrapped in layers of counterintuitive science and dangerous misinformation. Some myths are just ineffective, but others, like waiting for sweating to stop or misusing salt tablets, can actively make someone sicker, faster. The next time temperatures climb, remember that the danger isn't just the number on the thermometer. It's the bad advice that follows it. Now, I want to hear from you. What's the worst, most ridiculous piece of heatwave advice you've ever been given? Drop it in the comments below, because sharing these myths is the first step to busting them for good. If you found this breakdown valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe for more science that matters to your daily life, and share this video. You might just save a life. I'll see you in the next one.